Welcome to Project Me with Tiffany Carter, the podcast and posse. Well, you guys, I have a dose for you today. You are going to hear some real straight talk from an entrepreneur who has worked on all different sides, from having a brick and mortar business to an online business, who's done live events, who has a podcast, who has the best hair in the business, by the way. You've probably heard of him, Rob Murgatroyd. He has a really successful podcast, Work Hard, Play Hard. Also is known for having this fantastic mastermind where you travel all over the world. But what I love him more and most for is our beloved, cherished show that we both talk about all the time, 90 Day Fiancé. So as smart as we can be sometimes, as high level as we seem, as much as we like business, we're really also just like the smutty shit like the rest of us. Rob, I'm so happy you're on today.
Listen, I am so happy to be here, but if you only want to talk about 90 Day Fiancé and forget all this entrepreneurial bullshit, I would be very, very happy to just talk about it because I'm obsessed. I am beyond obsessed, and it was at your recommendation for me to watch, and now I'm watching everything. I'm watching 90 Days, before the 90, after the 90, the 90's coming, the 90 hasn't hit yet. I watch them all. I love it.
You've gone deep with it. It's like I've watched all of them. Have you guys gone down the path of Married at First Sight yet?
Of course, everything.
I love you.
Everything.
It's like, see, you guys, I'm telling you, you've got to watch these shows. You don't have to always do and read and listen to personal development stuff. So what's your take on that? Because so many people, you talk about the book that has changed your life, which I've read that book as well, The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. I know you're an avid reader. I know you invest a lot in your own personal development, but you also make a lot of time for stupid shit. So
I do.
Why?
Because there is only so much bandwidth that you can burn mental calories on in any given day. And if you don't sharpen the saw, if you don't take time to refresh your minds, you are not going to be as effective as. So look, here's the thing. If you want to get an A+ Rob, then to get an A+ Rob, I have to disengage and then come back and re-engage. And there's little things that I do throughout the day. Like right now, I started taking transcendental meditation. So I take 2 20-minute sessions of doing TM, once in the morning before breakfast and once at night before dinner effectively. Those 2 20 minutes allow me to re-engage. So when I'm present and I'm 100% there. If I don't take the time to surf on the weekends and to do 20 minutes twice a day and to watch nonsensical things before I go to sleep so that I'm not trying to run problem solving and stay up all night doing it, I've got to have those pockets, those levers that I can pull on to decompress. Otherwise, I'm a shit show and I'm ineffective.
But you didn't used to operate like that, right? You were kind of similar to me, where we thought the more we worked, we would hustle, grind, and push, and that's what would get us success, which you did have a lot of success that way. So I want to hear about like that Rob. Like, what did that Rob look like?
Okay, fat, divorced. All of my biomarkers for my blood counts were high. I was boring, and I spent my days working towards building this was my goal. This is what I accomplished. A 10,000 square foot house, a BMW, Mercedes, and a Porsche in the driveway, a live-in maid, a house that required a massive amount of energy and focus to upkeep. And I was miserable. No matter what I bought, it was good for 10 minutes. No matter what everything was an inconvenience. My children, inconvenience. I'm trying to work. My wife, inconvenience. I'm trying to work. Everything was in the way of me accomplishing my goal. And eventually I got hit over the head with a frying pan, and I had a wife. I've not shared this story publicly, but I'll do it with you. I had a wife who was complaining so much that she was not getting the love that she wanted and the attention that she wanted, that my way to shut her up was to rent a yacht, sail through the Greek islands. Guess what happened on the yacht sailing through the Greek islands?
Major drama fight.
She fell in love with the captain of the boat, had an affair, married him, and had 2 kids. Now, I just jumped through 3 years of hell in my life in one sentence, but that's the punchline. We could spend all day on what that was about. But at the end of the day, it was the wake-up call that I needed to know how out of balance my life was, that my marriage wasn't right to begin with, and that's why it happened. My focus was on everything. My focus was only on work. I didn't, right now, it's for me, it's body being balance and business. Body being balance and business, right? Body is maybe a smoothie in the morning and a workout. Being is a couple of meditations a day and journaling. Business is learning something new and deploying what I just learned. Balance is spending time with my children and spending time with my wife. So all of these things are critical for me, because if I want to show up for my wife, then I've got to make sure that all of the areas in my life are better. I mean, like, if I want to show up to the boardroom, I've got to be fit. If I want to show up for my wife, I have to be meditated. If I want to show up for my children, I have to have a good relationship with my wife, and I need money. So, like, there's not one. Our lives are multiple things. We have to have all of these things. So I'm constantly, very, very intentionally planning my week around all of these things. Like, after I leave you today, I'm jumping in the ocean and I'm going surfing. I did podcasts all morning. I interviewed Cal Fussman, who's Larry King's best friend. He did his autobiography. Right before this one, I did the president of Barnard College, the women's college in Manhattan. Now I'm doing this with you. I'm done for the day. That's it. I'm done. That was enough work. And now it's going to be surfing. And then tonight it's going to be with the kids. So that's how I approach it.
Hence his whole brand is work hard, play hard. So one of the many things I love about Rob and his wife is their actions and words match. There's a lot of fucking people in this online personal development space, coaching space, where their actions and words don't match. They just say what they think they need to say in order for it to sound attractive, so you'll buy from them. And that's what you won't see any of that from Rob or his wife, Kim. Like, they live it and they show it and they embody it. So going back before you were the fat, miserable, rich Rob.
Yep.
What in your childhood do you believe or know, which I'm sure you know now, but know that led you to those behaviors where you really thought and truly innocently thought this is the only path and way to have success?
This is why you're so good, because you nailed it with the question. So baked into your question was, what the hell were you doing this for? What was the driver behind this? And the answer to that question was, I had a truck driver dad. Nothing wrong with a truck driver, but this one was abusive and this one was an alcoholic. And so at the end of the day, he came home and he was drunk and I wound up getting abused. And all I wanted to do was get out of the shithole of the Queens apartment in New York that I grew up in, being, having parents constantly fighting, have a dad always drunk, being physically abused. It was hell. And my way out of Vietnam, my way out of this was to make money. Because if I made money, I had choices. And to a large extent, it worked. It allowed me, it was a golden ticket out of it. The problem was I was still me inside of a big cage. So I didn't have the abusive dad, but I had a house. I didn't have, you get the idea. So it was the driver that got me out, but it wasn't the fulfillment that I needed. It was the thing that allowed me to feel safe, and it was allowed me to be significant. And then I realized there was only so many times that I could drive up to a stoplight and have somebody, you know, it's just really interesting. So I get a Porsche, I get a 911, and I'm like the great guy. I'm thinking the whole world's going to look at me. I have a Porsche. But really what I was the dick with the Porsche. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yes,
I
I do.
wasn't
I've
okay.
dated
So
them.
that's who I was, because all I wanted was you to look at me and look at my car. And I wanted to see when you pulled up to the house, which was literally a castle that we modeled after a French castle. I wanted you to see it. That became so empty so quickly. The driver, to answer your question, the driver was, if I got all this shit, then I'm going to be okay. And none of it did it. None of it. It was empty and shallow, and it was good for 5 minutes. So that's how I'd answer that.
Because a majority of the people listening now, right? I have some of you have a lot of shit and you're nodding your head, probably standing in your shit or sitting in the Porsche or the Range Rover or whatever. And you're like, yeah, that's true. Like, I'm still not happy. And I have, I have the failed marriage. But I have a great kid and I have a beautiful house and I should be grateful. I should just be grateful and appreciative for what I have. I mean, at least I have all this. And there's the other portion of you who don't have shit. You're paycheck to paycheck. And you're hearing Rob talk, and you probably, when you hear me talk, you're like, well, that must be nice. Like, I would love to have that. I'd love to be able to have that kind of money and have college fund for my kid or send them to private school and at least have even a brand new car. Right. But I think one of your main lessons you teach people, it sounds like about the physical things, right? What about those money things do you want people to hear that are the Rob before you had them?
Well, I'm going to answer it this way. You alluded to something a moment ago about where we are in this sort of place with social media. And we have this bullshit thing that we're selling each other every single day. It's like I know, obviously I'm not going to mention any names, but I know people that you and I both know in common, that because I have an intimate relationship with them, that I know can't stand this particular person. And they will see something that they're doing on Instagram and they'll be like, oh, I can't stand her. Like, and I'm looking, going like, what is it that? So we are living in this time of such bullshit where we are hustling and showing this highlight fake phony shit that is so boring and so uninteresting. This is why I love you, because I can watch you dancing around in a TJ Maxx as opposed to some hair extension girl holding her ponytail. If I see one more fucking chick holding her ponytail, I'm going to shit I'm so done with it, because there's no value there. There's no value. So I think from a business standpoint, I'm starting to identify that there are these stages that we go through, and this is a little bit off your question, but it's what made me think of it. The first stage is kind of like hustle, which is, I'm going to hustle the course, I'm going to hustle, the mastermind, I'm going to hustle the podcast. You're like hustling. And then there's this time where you get along, where you move more into an entrepreneurial stage, where you realize this is exhausting and I can't do this anymore, and I need to be a little bit smarter. And then you start getting like spreadsheets, and you start setting goals, and things start to become a little bit more organized. And then you move into this like stage where sort of I'm going into now, I think finally, which is more CEO-ish, where I am not looking for the next hustle. I'm not looking for the next spreadsheet. I'm looking for profit, yes, but I'm also looking for automation and ways that things are functioning without my hustle. The Facebook ads that are automatically selling courses. I just bought an Amazon business that is throwing off. It's set to throw off $10,000 a month, which is another conversation. But it's set to throw off $10,000 a month, and it's all automated. So I'm learning how to have people do things for me. So I think we go through these different stages of business. And that's sort of the stage that I'm in now.
And that's what I always try to tell you guys about is passive income, right? Now people are really, it's so funny. Now that's become like a whole term. I've been working the passive income game for like long before it was cool.
Yeah.
But the thing that I know Rob also advocates for too, and his whole brand is around, we want you to work less and make more. That doesn't mean you don't do hard things. That doesn't mean you don't show up, but you leverage your time, you leverage your money, you ask for help, you hire help. You hire fucking people like Rob and I to show you how to do it. There's another way to do it. Because clearly, having your successful chiropractic business that you sold, you got to that success by grinding, hustling, pushing, forcing, but you were miserable. So that way does work. I built my other company that way.
Mm-hmm.
But we know from, right? If you want to listen to my episode on Rob's podcast, you know, I go more into it, but you guys know I went to kill myself 6.5 years ago with the cars, with the, you know, I would, thank God. Oh my God. I hope you weren't on Instagram back then. Thank God I wasn't.
No, I wasn't. Instagram is relatively new to me. You know, this is interesting when you're bringing this up. We've made a decision we're going to be moving. We just moved to California and we love it. But there's something missing that I didn't quite put my finger on. And it was about a month ago where it hit us. Everything here in California, I'm going to make a point here, so just bear with me. Everything in California is perfect. 70 degrees, sunshine, surfing.
He's only lived here like, what, a year? I've been here a long time. But
yeah, okay.
I'm jaded and you're not.
Okay, yeah. I get it. I get it. I know all the politics and this is and you know the governor and we live in communist China. I know all of that. But basically what I was after, I got. What I was after was 70 degrees, sunny, blue skies most of the year and surfing. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
The problem is that what I got is that and only that. I didn't get more than that. So prior to moving here, I lived in Florence we lived, and as a family, we lived in Florence we did the sabbatical for 4 months. It was amazing. The Italians, La Dolce Vita, it was just incredible. So we decided that we want to live in Tuscany. So we're moving in 14 months when our lease is up here. We're moving to Florence, Italy, and we're going to live a different life, a life that has more meaning, that is deeper, more soulful. I want to be around art, and I want to be around amazing food, and I want to learn a new language. So we get one fucking life. That's it. We get one. I want to live it to the best. And I don't want to just be all about work. So to your point, automation is going to help and support me, because if I can live the life I want, I did the numbers. It costs me $650,000 a year. That's my dream life. If I have $650,000 a year, that gives me the number I want in retirement. That gives me a ridiculous amount of money to spend every week going out to dinner. It gives me the money to spend 2 months a year taking completely off, private schools for the kid, etc. It is the dream life. Now, if I can find a way to automate that 650, well, then I got it all, because now I got the money coming in. I don't have to necessarily work because it's automated. And I get to live the life I want, because the punchline is the goal is to live the life you want. And you think that you have to work your ass off to get it. And I'm telling you, you don't. You got to figure out strategically, what do you want? How much does it cost? How can you automate it? And are you doing something that you love to do? And stop getting this shit in your head that you have to work yourself, Gary Vee style, until your eyes bleed out. Gary Vee loves it. Let him do it. That doesn't mean you have to do it.
Oh my God. How many of you listening right now are tripping while you're walking on that treadmill, or because 70% of you said you listen to me in the shower, are rub-a-dub-dubbing to that? I know, 70%. Wow. And I'm talking like thousands of people answered. I was like, okay, podcast in the shower, multitasking, that's good. They know I always talk about Gary Vee and not putting him down, but he likes that style. He
Loves it.
likes being on 24/7. He gets off on it. A dear friend of mine from college is in a partnership in a business with him.
Hmm.
And I go, is that really his way? He goes, Tiff, he loves it and it never shuts down.
Never.
He's like, from the moment he wakes, there is a camera in his face. And that's okay. He loves it. That's the key thing, right?
Loves it.
He loves it. But the issue is you see other people online and it's not your fault. You're taking it in. Maybe you've read books, you've gone to Tony Robbins things, right? Whatever. And you're seeing that way and it's feeding into that belief that you picked up in society and childhood and corporate America or whatever, that if you really want it, you have to give an arm and a leg. Money doesn't just grow on trees, et cetera, et cetera. What were some of the money things that you picked up, whether they were said to you in childhood or it was just subconscious, like maybe your dad drank more when it was tax time or it was bill time of the month?
Well, I wish it was he drank when it was tax time. He drank when it was Tuesday. So I got what you're talking about. Here's the money lessons that I learned from him. I learned two, and both of them were horrible. The first lesson was anytime anybody was wealthy, he looked down upon people with money and he put them into a bucket. And the bucket was, you think you're better than me and you're not just because you make this much money. And I could remember we'd go out, let's say he made, I don't even know how much he made. He was a truck driver, maybe 50 grand, 80 grand. I don't know, whatever it was with overtime, right? Because that was the golden thing for him. I got overtime on this week. That was a big thing. So if we went out to dinner with somebody who, I don't know, was a plumber and had, a business that he did well, I knew as soon as we left their house that he would talk about how he thinks he's so important because of the money he has. But I was too young to understand that really what he was doing it was his own insecurity that was coming out. I didn't get that. So that was the first one. So making money to me equals some douchebag, right? That was the first one. The second one was whatever money he's had, he would say over and over again, I had it and I spent it, but I lived a great life. So I learned that whatever you make, you spend because that's how you have a good life.
Ooh.
There was
I
no
haven't
savings.
heard that one before. That's
There was
interesting.
no savings whatsoever. He'd say, I had it and I spent it. And it was his way of saying, I earned it and I spent it and I lived it. So the part that I got from him that was good was to live a good life. Alcohol was a problem for him. When he didn't drink, he was a great guy. When he drank, he was evil. But that part of him taught me how important it was to live. For example, on the upside, we'd go to the Caribbean every year for 16 years. Every summer, we'd spend a week or two in the Caribbean. He loved to dive. He was a different guy when we traveled. He loved to dive. If you gave him a free ticket to China, he'd go tomorrow. He wanted to see the world. He loved people. He loved traveling. So he loved to live. He had a problem. He had a drinking problem, but he loved to live. So he taught me how to live. But to answer your question, it was spend every dollar you make.
Mm. So when you were living in the castle
Yep.
and rented the yacht and all the things, were you spending every dollar that you made?
Spending every dollar they made.
And you were also the douchebag that your dad couldn't stand.
It's exactly right. Really, I just got chills. That was really good. That was a really good analysis.
It's almost like a fuck you in a way.
Absolutely. That was a rebellion. You got it. You nailed it. What do I owe you for that therapy session? That was good.
Well, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing, because it all ties back. What's interesting is, and Rob picked up on this so well in my interview on his podcast, which, by the way, again, you guys better fucking subscribe. Work hard, play hard. There's only like a handful I listen to because most people annoy me. His show's superb. So
Thank you.
on his show, we talk about, we grew up differently, both severely abusive households, but I was raised the second wealthiest family in an already wealthy neighborhood, but I had equal poverty mindset, right? Because to me, I was in the evil house with the money. So if you were, and both parents were an entrepreneur. So if you were a successful entrepreneur, that meant bad things were going to happen. So it does. Some people kind of go, well, yeah, I have a hard time with money because I wasn't taught it or I grew up poor. It doesn't matter. You could grow up poor, rich, black, white, in Italy, in the Ukraine. It doesn't matter. You can pick up this kind of stuff. But it's interesting because I have the opposite when it comes to spending. That I have my business coach, thankfully, has to call me on, where I almost am afraid to spend because money equals net savings feels safety and security for me. So how do you handle now your own spending? Because how you used to spend wasn't healthy and was erratic, right?
Yeah,
So
it was
how
a
do
big
you
problem.
manage it now?
Yeah, it's a great question. It was a big problem, and it was a big problem in my marriage. That's dramatic. It was an issue. I wouldn't say it was a big problem. It was more like, Kim would say, if one more Amazon box gets delivered, I'm going to bang it over your head. It was like that kind of thing. So we had to navigate it, and I realized that I am mindless when it comes to spending. So we had to put some constraints on me. And the constraints were, you don't have the Amazon password. I took it away. It was the savings is automated. We have a plan that we do where I'll tell it to you quickly. We have a certain amount that we save every Friday. And every 90 days, we increase that number by 10%. So if you start with $100 a week, in 90 days, it's $110 a week. That formula it gets pretty crazy when you look at it, how it grows, but that formula will get you to 15 million. Will get you to 5 million in 15 years. So that process had to be automated. So I had to learn how to live around the savings being automatically transferred out of my account, pull the Amazon password. Everything related to financial decisions are agreed upon with between she and I. We have a cooling off period. If there's something that we want to buy that's over $1,000, we wait a week. If we still want it in a week, then we'll get it. And the short answer to the question is I can't be trusted. I want to get my nails and my hair done. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but your hair is worth it, Rob. It makes me smile.
Thank you. So I know that this is not my strong suit, and because it's not my strong suit, and I want to be responsible, I defer. I automate where I can, and I defer bigger decisions to my wife. And what's happening now is I am now starting to get addicted the other way, a little bit more your way, where now I'm starting to get enough momentum under my belts that I am getting excited about saving so I could buy the next Amazon business or whatever.
And that's the good part of how I operate, right? But the common theme is, right, Rob and I have different issues that could be unhealthy or not support the lifestyles we want, but we put accountability in place.
I needed it.
My accountability for me has to come from the form of private coaches or a very, very dear friend, period.
Yep.
I have to have skin in the game, and someone who has no agenda or anything in my life, and someone who just calls me out, like, you're being a cheap ass, because I can be cheap. Even when I know it could make me more money, I'll be like, no, I don't know, because that's more money coming out of my savings. So some of you are cheap and some of you spend too frivolously. So you got to see where you're at and hold accountability in place. So something that you're so incredible at doing, which there's this side of me, that safety security side, that goes, oh God, that's scary, is you guys kind of have a zero fucks policy, like zero fucks. We're moving from Atlanta to Los Angeles. Zero fucks. We're moving to Florence. That sounds absurd, not possible, wild, imaginative, even irresponsible to some people. Because, I mean, for those of you guys who don't know Rob, they have a little girl too.
Yep.
So talk to us about that. I know you said you have one life, but like help us wrap our heads around this shit.
Well, I think what you have to do is you got to get really honest and really clear with yourself on what life you want to live. And if there is something inside of you, I think people give a lot of, in reference to Atlanta, LA, and Florence, I think a lot of people give a lot of credence to what they want to do with their life, but they don't give a lot of focus on where they want to do it. Your environment that you're in will dictate how you feel. When I walk through the streets of Florence, I feel like a different person. When I do these masterminds that I do behind me in the south of France or wherever we are, everybody in my group feels like a different person. So the external environment, the stimuli that's around you triggers you in different ways. So when you're surrounded by a city that was built by Michelangelo, it's going to be different than being in Hermosa Beach. You're going to get a different sort of feel for that. So to answer the question, what we do is we are very, very clear on what the vision of our life looks like. We are also clear that the vision of our life can change. And I say our because I've tried to do it individually, separate from her, where I had one vision and she had another, and it does not work. We have to figure out together what is the together couples goal, the together family goal that we want. And so, getting back to that time where we're sitting in LA and I'm like, God, everything is perfect. Like, why am I like, I'm really enjoying it here and I'm loving surfing and the weather. Like what is it? And I realized that there's a new rocket of desire that is coming up inside of me that's moving me. Now, I could not listen to it. I could ignore it, or I could investigate it. And so what I did was I was really torn. So I reached out to a friend of mine who's a coach. Chris Goodman is his name. He's great. And I said to him exactly what I said to you. And he asked me, this is why coaches are so important. He asked me a question that changed everything. And the question is, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you like your life in LA? I said, it's a 10. He said, scale of 1 to 10, how do you like your life in Italy? I'm like, it's a 10. That's the problem. I love them both for different reasons. He said, okay. So if you had 2 years left to live, where would you live? In Italy or in California? I was like, Italy. And he's like, why? And that answer to that question changed everything. I'm like, because, and I just went on, because it's an assault on your senses, because the food is incredible, because it's the world's best art, because Sophia is going to, and all of a sudden the light bulb just came on. And I realized that really what I'm trying to do is I'm looking, when you have a 6-year-old daughter or a child, and you're in this little bubble like I'm in here in California. We're in Hermosa, Manhattan Beach area. And it's a little bit of a bubble,
It's called the bubble.
It's called the bubble. So you know what I'm talking about. And I'm looking around at what her pool is for dating when she moves into high school. And there's a very Peter Pan-y kind of thing here where guys just don't grow up.
You guys, remember how I told you I dated the United Nations? A lot of the United Nations dating occurred living where Rob lives now. And I call it the Charlie Harper land from 2.5 Men. They're everywhere.
It's exactly what it's like. It's exactly what it's like. It's like Hawaiian shirts and just surfing and there's not. It's great. I mean, it's easy. It's simple, but it isn't very deep. And there's not a lot of. There's no culture other than surf culture. There's no one. No. There's zero, and Mexican food. You know what I mean? Like that's it.
Right.
So once you get honest and you get clear. And you get rid of all of the bullshit, like what are people going to say? You just moved to California. Why are you moving? And you're blah, blah, blah. You get clear and you start to say, okay, well, and you start asking questions. Would Sophia do better going to the International School of Florence in Tuscany, probably learning how to speak 5 different languages, or going to Hermosa High School, Which one is going to be more impactful on her life? A villa in Tuscany or blah, blah, blah. And so as we started to go through this, we started asking different questions. And then we looked at each other and we said, this is scary, but what do you think? And she's like, I'm in if you're in. And I'm like, okay. Now here's where the rubber meets the road. Are you willing to set a date, make it public, and then work towards it? That is the hardest thing to do. So we said in 1 year, we have a date, 1 year and 4.5 months, and we have a countdown timer. This is what we're going to do. When we first said it, it felt like we were going to throw up. And then the next week, it was a little easier. And then every morning we wake up and it's like, I was looking at some palazzos, these apartments there. I was looking at this palazzo in Florence. What do you think of that? And then you get lost in the new world that you're about to create. And every morning I read a vision, and I think this is worth it for me to read it. If you have a minute, I think you'd
Rob,
enjoy
I
it.
have many minutes for you.
All right. So I think your audience is going to like this. So I read this to myself every morning. We live in a magnificent palazzo in Florence that mixes old world charm with state of the art amenities. Our expansive outdoor terrace has sweeping scenes of the city and nearby rolling hills of Tuscany, giving us a bird's eye view of what we came there for. My day begins at 6 a.m. in our home office with a view, meditating, journaling, and reading, and preparing myself for a great day ahead. At 7 a.m., the ringing church bells signal that Sophia is on her way in to see me. Mommy transfers the football to me to help me make her breakfast so she can do her meditation. Sophia finds her way into her International School of Florence uniform, and as a family, we head to the bus stop. Along our walk, we chit-chat with Sophia about life, and we stay connected to her. We see her onto the bus and watch as it points itself towards her day of education in a magnificent villa in the hills of Tuscany. Kim and I stroll to our favorite coffee shop, Cibreo, for our morning coffee, taking in the sounds and sights and vibe of Florence waking up. As our cappuccini disappears, leaving behind only its traces, we head home to work on projects that we love. As the morning dissolves into the afternoon, we head for our energy-shifting workouts to recenter ourselves to give Sophia our total attention. Some days we take the afternoon off to explore the art and culture that live in our beautiful adopted city. Our nights are filled with aperitivo hours, evening passeggiatas, and dinners that are made from passion. On the weekends, we take in Tuscany's food and wine and truffle festivals and the beautiful surrounding countryside. When the desire hits us, we hop on quick flights to places like Paris, Mykonos, and Spain to take advantage of all the great countries that are surrounding us. In the summertime, we swap Florence's heat for the Southern California summers. Our beach house has stunning sunset views and is positioned perfectly to walk everywhere. During the day, it's surfing, bicycling, and playing at the beach. The evenings take us into town for ice cream and meetups with friends. We appreciate the simple and deeply fulfilling pleasures of living our La Dolce Vita meets California dream life.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm seriously moved to tears,
Right?
Rob. You guys,
So
you guys have to do this exercise for yourself. I closed my eyes, and I hope some of you did, except if you're driving or on the treadmill, but I closed my eyes. I've done a lot of traveling, and I've spent a lot of time in Italy. So it was easier, for me to really
sure.
sit in that, but you disciplined yourself and actually wrote this out. And what's funny is it's such a simple exercise, yet I'll be straight up owning it myself. It's such a simple exercise, yet have I ever written that out? Never.
So it's a simple vision exercise that the way I do it is I do a rough draft and then I rewrite it every day for usually it takes me about a month where I'm looking for a different word, like as the cappuccini disappears from my cup, because that takes me where I could see like the remnants of the cappuccino there. I'm looking for tactile sensations and smells and sounds. One, and two is then I create a vision board that is around vision. So if you go on my Instagram, you could link it up in the show notes. I did a tutorial. It's the last post on my Instagram. I did a tutorial. So I don't know if you want to pull up your phone now while we're talking, but you'll see it's a video of me standing in front of the vision board that I just created to match
Oh, I see
that
it.
story. So it might be interesting for your listeners
Yeah, go
to
to
look at
go
it.
to at Rob Murgatroyd. It's ROBMURGATROYD. Also, here's the easier thing to do. Take a screenshot of this episode while you're listening. And I want you to share this for anyone in your audience who you know has a dream on their heart and they know they're meant for something more, but they're not there. They're kind of like stuck in the shit of it all. Take a screenshot, share it, tag me at Project Me with Tiffany. If you can, tag at Rob Murgatroyd. But if you're multitasking, just tag me and I'll reshare it and I'll make sure I tag Rob. But what's interesting, because I teach a lot on law of attraction, and it's much more than, crystals and oils and all that bullshit.
Yep.
It's what you said. Writing it, yes, great. Vision boarding, yes, great. But when you incorporate your other senses, you picture yourself there, the smells, the sounds, you're walking, what you're looking at, how the breeze feels on your body, that is when you get into that super attractor mode.
It does. And when you write it for the first time, it's going to feel a bit hollow because you haven't put enough emotion into it. And I would suggest in the morning, with a cup of coffee when it's quiet, and, if you do meditation in the morning after your meditation, but just quiet and first thing in the morning, read it and continually change words and sentences until you go, that's it. And if you don't change it for 3 days in a row, then you got it. So sometimes that takes about a month to get it. But once you get it, what you're doing is that clarity once you know what it is, it draws it in. It's kind of like I saw Elton John being interviewed about his song Candle in the Wind when Diana died. And he said, it took me 5 minutes. And every one of these, people who write a book, it's like it came out of me in 2 months. It's because you got so clear on what you wanted that it just you puked it out. It just came right through you. But if you don't take the time to get that clarity precedes momentum. So clarity is really important.
Is that something that you help people with, Rob, in your mastermind? Because a lot of people, and I used to be one of them, if someone asked me what I was passionate about, what I wanted my life to look like, I knew I needed to have a canned answer because I
Mhm.
knew it was weird, or
Yeah.
I had, to not have an answer. So I just came up with some bullshit. But truly, I didn't know. And a lot of people really don't know. Is that something you help people get that clarity? Because that's everything. Nothing can happen if you don't have that.
Yeah, not in the mastermind, in the new course that we're coming out with. And if your listeners want to get on the list, I think it's probably a good way to do it. I'll explain it to you, but if you text the word dream life to 310-388-9724, you'll get on the list for this. But I basically have three. You're going to find this really interesting. So I have three different avatars, okay, that I work with. They all share the same problem. The general problem is regret. They don't want to have regrets, okay? I'm uniquely qualified to help them solve the problem of regret because I'm all about fulfillment, okay? Avatar 1 is the made for more guy or girl. I am in a cubicle. I am in a job I hate. I work from home. I know that I'm made for more. I just don't know exactly what it is. I just don't know exactly how to do it, but I know I'm made for more. That person is for our new Dream Life course, which is the number I just gave you. Okay. That'll be out in about a month. The next one, and they both have regret in common. The next one is the burnt out professional. the burnt out professional. I've been a chiropractor for 20 years. I've been a candlestick maker for 20 years. I'm burnt out. I still have music left inside me, and I want to do what's next. And I think I know what it is, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. That product is coaching. The last avatar I have is I figured out what I love to do. I love to do it. It's the Chris and Lori Harders. It's the Lewis Howes. It's you. I am doing the work I want to be doing. I'm living the life I want. I created it. What those people have in common is it's all they do. So you're seeing them talk to you about living a great life, not you, but people who are talking to them about living a great life, but really they're in front of a keyboard all day. They're not traveling. Their relationships are okay. They're really, really good. They love what they're doing so much. That product is what you see behind you, which is my mastermind, where I force them out of their day-to-day and I take them into new environments. I'm sure you want to talk about that later. I can tell you about the mastermind later, but you get the idea. I take them to different physical environments.
And they're really, they're dream locations, right? And I've done a version of your mastermind just myself because I never knew there was something like that existed. Or if it did exist at the time, I would have been all for it. But I created a version of that myself because that's that accountability for me. When I put money on the line, I book my first class ticket, my 5-star hotel in Mykonos, and go to Santorini, and I'm gone for 2 weeks. But it's sad because I have to book those things and put big money on it, or I don't go. And that's part of your avatar, right? That's a common thing I'm sure of highly successful people.
Our rule is when we're on a trip, we open the laptop up on the last night, we book and pay for the next one. So when I'm in Israel, I'm booking Italy. When I'm in Italy, I'm booking Greece. And we've never not done that because when you buy the ticket, your chances of going go up 95%.
Exactly why I've done that for years. And it can't, for me, and it was when I was making 60 grand a year, 80 grand a year versus millions. It didn't matter. It had to be, it couldn't have been like a $197 flight special. Cause then I could have gone, oh, well, I have so much coming up. Like I'm so important. I have to cancel it.
Yeah. You need some skin in the game.
Absolute skin in the game. So people listening, people who know you, people who watch you online, and including myself, we make up stories about people. We just do. Yep. All of us do.
Thank God somebody's talking about me. So go ahead.
I have a full story about you. Okay. Tell me. So here's my story. Okay. Rob's face right now is
I'm ready. I'm ready.
The story is this, especially when you said you're moving to Florence and you took me through your whole thing and you moved me and I went, here's my but. This is the story of Rob Murgatroyd that Tiffany Carter has created while I'm sitting on my couch drinking rosé.
Okay.
That Rob is the most disciplined, motivated person I have ever experienced, where he disciplines himself to meditate twice a day. He works out all the time. His hair is perfect. He's always perfectly groomed. He takes time for his business, his kid, his wife. He's just a magical unicorn of extreme motivation and discipline. And I'm more of a luxuriating, lazy ass person. And so there's no way I could execute that because I don't have that consistent high level of motivation and discipline as Rob Murgatroyd.
Yeah, it's not an entire story. There's a truth to the discipline component of it, but I think that when we get a layer beyond that, which is why is the discipline there? Discipline equals freedom to me. So the more disciplined I am, the more free I am. And the way that I do it is I need hacks that are in place that reinforce and force the discipline. For example, I have maybe 8 to 10 habits that I am, and by habits, I mean things that I want to do every day, that I am working on a daily basis. So if I open up my book now and I look at my planner that I have here for
See,
today.
planner, and I watch him, and it's like this meticulous planner, which goes back to my story of this extreme discipline unicorn. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is an extreme discipline unicorn because you're right. I don't know if you could read that, but see if you can read
Even
that.
your fucking printing looks the same.
Can you
Yeah.
read that
Oh
line?
yeah. I mean, he has like full on like check marks next to every. Wow.
So those are the habits that I want to do. Now, for me, I like to win. So I like to wake up in the morning and be clear about, or I actually do it at night, be clear about what the next day looks like. And Lewis Howes, actually, when we were in Greece, basically we talked about this from an athlete standpoint. He writes down in the morning at 7, I'm going to do this, and at 8, I'm going to do this, and he not only just blocks it, but he talks about the hours that he wants to do it. And what it allows me to do is it allows me to put the big rocks in place, and I leave. This is a good one. Lori said to me, Lori Harder, she said, "Do you leave magic time?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Do you leave time for the magic to happen?" And I said, "Yes, as long as it's at 8:30."
So some of the thing I came up with is true.
Yeah. Yeah, I am wired towards organization and linear thinking, because if I don't do it, I know me. I am this is where it's so hard to answer this question. I am undisciplined if I don't have discipline. So if I don't have order, I'm not going to do it.
So without this level of structure for you,
it won't happen.
What does that Rob look like? Like, is Rob living in a tent?
No, not living in a tent, because I'd never let that happen. But it's Rob bumbling through the day, like walking around with clay feet, and at the end of the day going, I didn't get shit done. And I hate that.
Yeah,
because if you have goals, every goal is just a series of steps. You know, to get to Italy, there's going to be 1,200 things that I have to do between now and the next 14 months.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, I can really make that into a big project in my head. That sounds like a lot.
Right? So for me, if I don't have the structure of that project and accomplish it, but I will tell you this may be very helpful. Do you know who Chalene Johnson is?
Yeah.
Okay, Chalene, do you know her push planner? So her push planner is the concept you can use. You don't even need to buy her planner. Her push planner is great. You come up with a goal that you want to accomplish, the next big goal. And it could be a month and it could be 2 years, whatever it is, whatever your next thing is. You brainstorm a list of everything that you need to do to accomplish that goal. And every day you take 3 actions against that one goal. Every day, 5 days a week, 3 5 to 10 minute actions every single day against one goal. It has been the game-changing thing in my life, where I write down what is the push goal, move to Italy. What are 3 5 to 10 minute actions I need to do? Find a ship that I can get all my shit into. Well, I don't want to do that. How can I leverage it? Email assistant to find the ship that I could put it on a cargo, get my stuff out there. What else do I have to do? Call the lawyer to find out about getting a work visa. Okay, I can do that one. Every day, so brainstorm it, come up with, so Kim and I got a giant sketch pad, you know, the ones that the artists use, and we wrote like move to Italy, and we just did a data dump. Well, I'll say, tell me everything you're frustrated about. We'll try different emotions. What are you frustrated? I'm frustrated because I don't know how I'm going to get my Peloton there. Okay, what else? Because I like to watch Cody, and I want to I'm like, get mad. What else are you mad about? And then I'll okay, well, what are you confused about? Well, I don't know how we're gonna. And so she brainstorms, I brainstorm, and then boom, we have 100 things on the list. And then I chunk them, and I say, okay, what goes with what? This is around moving. This is around technology. This is around Sophia's school, right? All the things. We got all the different groupings, and then I got them all on a list. And then at night, I look at the giant list and I say, take it easy. Pick 1, 2, or 3 things. If it's one thing that's going to take 20 minutes, do 1. If it's one thing that'll take 5 minutes each, do 3. 1, 2, or 3, put it on the to-do list, and every single day do 1, 2, or 3 things. It gives you progress and it makes you feel like you're moving there. So these are hacks how I do it.
Now, as beautifully simple and incredible as that sounds, I'd put a solid mill on the fact that 80% of you guys listening wouldn't stick with this. And I know you've seen this as having, masterminds and people you've coached and employees that you have working for you or worked for you in the past. You've worked with a lot of people.
Yep.
I bet you would agree with that number. And what I want to know is, why do you think that is?
Well, I'll tell you this. This is the hard truth, and I hate to say this. My mastermind is $30,000. Okay. When somebody is spending 30 grand, that kind of person is an executor. They just fucking execute. If I say this is what they need to do and they have a buy-in, they just fucking do it. I don't have to worry about it. The people that are in a product that I sell that's $1,000, that's 80%. You can't coach ambition. You can't. They're not going to do it. So 80% of them won't, and I don't care. So I don't try and change the one that I know is likely not going to do it, because the one who can pay $30,000, they have trained themselves to execute on what they want. They're easy. So I just stopped trying to coach ambition in people and do the best I can to get their why. But if they don't have the motivation, then they either don't want it or they're just not making it a priority. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Agreed. And it goes back to how I always talk about the power of using money to your favor, to your advantage. So, my 2-month private coaching program where I only take 6 people at a time, right? That's my highest ticket. That is the most intimate access with me. I take high-level entrepreneurs trying to scale from 500,000 to $1 million or $1 million and multi-millions. I also have people starting from 0 to 10,000.
Yep.
I have someone who's a stripper right now. She has saved her money and approached us and asked, I'm working with Tiffany. Would you guys be open to, over the course of several months, me continually sending money until I've paid the full amount up so that I can work with her? I'll fucking work with someone like that all day long. So it's not that someone just has the 30 grand, right, sitting there. There's obviously those people, but it's someone who's the person who's resourceful and willing to put that cash on themselves. That's the type of person who follows through, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I will work with the stripper for free. But that's just another that's just another conversation.
A lot of strippers are attracted to me, probably because my name's Tiffany and I was either going to be a stripper or I was going to be a successful entrepreneur. Like
on
it
the
was
main stage.
There were really only 2 roads for me. That's about it. And my other company is named TLC Enterprises, which I traveled to Vegas every week for many years. And I was like, you know what? This is a really shady name for a company.
Right. It's like a subsidiary of Twerk LLC.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
So I want to know 2 things. One, what does Rob Murgatroyd look like on a shit day at your worst?
Oh.
Like, is the hair a situation? What happens? It's bad, I bet.
Do you know there's never been a day that I can remember that I've not done the hair. So I can't give you I've had days I didn't like the way it looked, but I've never gone out of the house without doing it. So it's not the hair. I'll tell you what a shitty day looks like. A shitty day looks like me, and this is not lip service, this is honest. It's me burning the candle at both ends, trying to de-stress by having too much wine the night before, and then waking up feeling like shit, going to the gym because it's something that's important to me and pushing through it and feeling even worse, and then being a dick to everybody around me because I'm exhausted and I'm pushing when I know my body is craving to just stop, but I'm not willing to do it. And so I'm acting like an asshole because I'm exhausted. That's usually what you'll see. You'll usually see a burnt out guy that I'm getting better at recognizing, and I'm getting better at making sure that I don't fall in that place. But when I do, it's always because I've overscheduled. I've made something a priority that doesn't need to be a priority. Like I don't have to work out that day. I'm going to be fine. Do you know what I mean? Or I drank too much, and why the fuck did I do that?
I'm very
That's how.
similar. That's
Yeah.
how I am on my worst day. I've overextended. I've been overgiving and not enough to myself.
Yeah.
I'm loving asking this question lately because I remember where I was at 13 years ago, where I started and as an entrepreneur, and I was a disaster trying to figure out everything on my own because I was a cheap ass
Yep.
and was afraid to bet money on myself. I made so many mistakes and I still do. Like I always say, most people online, it makes it look like everything they fucking touch turns to gold. Oh, no, it doesn't, because I coach a lot of them. And a lot of them owe a lot of back taxes right now, too. So, but they
Yep.
had a 7-figure launch. So, my question for you is, what is a mistake,
Yep.
or a fail, something that was just like a hashtag fail, like, well, okay, that didn't work, that you had recently? And what did you assess from it? What did you take away from it?
Hmm. Well, this is the first thing that comes to mind, and I don't know that this is going to be exactly what you're asking, but I think it will. I think it's good enough. I love my wife more than words I can tell you, and I am not showing up and have been in the romantic way that I need to be. It has been a lot of, I can give you all of the reasons why and say, we're homeschooling. I've got a 6-year-old around me all the time. I've got a launch coming up. I've got a mastermind come, blah, blah, blah. I can give you all the reasons. But for whatever the reason is, I have not found a way in my current set of circumstances to romance the stone the way that I need to. And it's not for lack of desire, and it's not for lack of trying. It is frustratingly circumstantial right now. We wake up and Sophia is 6 years old, and we've got to get her on Zoom. And I'm doing podcasts, and Kim is doing her network marketing business, and I'm in between podcasts and her in between her network marketing calls. We are fighting for every moment that we have in the morning. And then I will go off and do my workout or surfing, and then I'll come back and it's dinner time, and it's Sophia wants to hang out with us. And then at 9 o'clock, I'm watching 90 Day Fiance, and my eyes are starting to drop. And another day goes by, and I have not been romantic. So I am trying to find a way to be flirty through a text, through a note, through grabbing her ass when I pass her by, through saying something, and finding that time to do a date night. With COVID, with everything closed in California that just opened this week, I feel terrible for like leaving Sophia, who has not been able to really go to dinner anywhere for over a year, and just say you're home with a sitter and mommy and daddy are going to go. So even that doesn't feel so the epic fail for me is not finding a way to improve this romantic side of my life that I really want to. And I'm still trying to figure that out.
Well, I appreciate your honesty with that, because this is why I love asking the question. Again, the lies and the stories that we make up when we watch people on social media, when people listen to your podcast or mine, right? Is that, and because you and your wife, do this great Friday, series on his podcast. And it's like, oh my God, they have this amazing little girl and they have the best relationship and they travel and everything's perfect. And we can make up a lot of shit, right?
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you sharing that because it lets people know, like, hey, there's always going to be an area that we got to work on, period.
Absolutely. Come hang out with us for a day. Like, don't meet your heroes. you,
Right.
you'll get it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you want to meet me, by the way, I'll be hitting up Club TJ Maxx on Saturday night. They're playing a really good set, I hear. So we can do like parking lot wine and then hit it up in there, and maybe we'll like find a tank top or two.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Rob, I freaking love you. Thank you so much. Such a refreshing dose of honesty in the sea of
Bullshit.
vanity and bullshit.
Work Hard, Play Hard podcast.com. Work Hard, Play Hard podcast.com is where everything lives. You can find everything there.
Okay, that'll also be in the show notes. Take a screenshot right now if this episode did something for you, to at least motivate you to ask yourself the question, to have a conversation with your significant other, with yourself, with God, to write it down of, how do I want to be spending my life? If I only had 2 years to live, what would I want to be doing? And what does that look like, smell like, taste like, feel like? And what are some steps to get there? Take a screenshot, share this episode on Instagram, tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany, tag Rob at Rob Murgatroyd, Rob Murgatroyd. If you're in the shower, just tag me, and don't worry, I'll tag him. Spread the love. And there's someone in your audience for sure that they just need to hear this. Like, they just do. You don't have to be like a boho, Polly the influencer, 25 years old with no children, and now I can go off to Bali and experience the world. You can be fucking 70. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, you 70 and you need like a vagina rejuvenation. I get it. I'm right there with you.
I would totally get one at 70, by the way. Just saying. Thank you, Rob. I loved having you here. I appreciate you so much. And I'll talk to you soon.
You too.